Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am going to be doing the chronic illness tag, which was created by a couple of YouTubers called Izzy and Georgina. I will link their channels and their videos down below so that you can go and check them out. But yeah, I started off by watching Georgina's videos. She has similar illnesses to me, and yeah, I've been watching her for a little while now. And then she did, she's done a couple of collaborations with Izzy, and one of the collaborations that she has done quite recently is this chronic illness tag that they have come up with. I think there are other chronic illness tags going around, but I saw this one and I quite liked it, so I thought I would give it a go. They didn't like tag me directly, but they did say anyone that wants to do it could do it, so that's what I'm going to do. So there are 12 questions. In their videos they split them between their two channels, but obviously because I'm doing it, I'm just going to do 12 questions in one video. So yeah, let's get started with questions. So question 1 is, what are your diagnoses? And I always struggle when people ask me this because I'm trying to remember like everything that I've got. So I guess my main condition or diagnosis is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome hypermobile type or hypermobility type. That is, I guess, where a lot of other stuff stems from. But I also have something called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is a little bit of a mouthful. But yeah, so I have that, but that is often related to EDS. I also have gastroparesis and intestinal dysmotility, which basically means my digestive system doesn't work properly. It goes too slowly and doesn't kind of move the food through my body properly. I also have, which I'm never quite sure of the name of, but bladder dysfunction of some description. So again, that is often related to the EDS, and it just means that I self-catheterise and struggle to empty my bladder. What else do I have? Oh, I have mast cell activation syndrome or disorder. I never know quite which one it is. So basically I have like funny allergic reactions to random things. Again, that is often quite linked with EDS. I'm not quite sure why, but it is. I have asthma. I get migraines. I have well, I have mental health diagnoses as well, although those are kind of under question at the moment. But originally I have been diagnosed with like depression and a mixed personality disorder, and in the past I've had problems with eating disorders. I think that's everything. I kind of feel like that's enough to be going on with. So yes, those are my diagnoses. Question number 2, does chronic illness affect the way that you dress? And I think if I was like answering this just off the cuff, I would probably say no, but actually if I kind of think a little bit more about it, I think chronic illness probably does affect the kinds of clothes that I like go for. Like I would always tend to go for more comfortable clothes because a lot of the time I'm not going out and doing stuff, so I just tend to wear things that I feel comfortable in. Actually, when I was doing a benefits assessment ages ago, I think, we spoke about this question, and actually it made me realise that my illnesses do kind of influence the way I dress quite a lot. So I will often wear things that are quite easy to get into and out of, unless I know that there's going to be someone around who can help me get into stuff and out of stuff. I try and, I don't know, I suppose that's why I wear like a lot of like jumpers and t-shirts, because they're just easy to get into and out of. Although I'm hypermobile and I can reach to do like buttons and stuff, it causes a lot of pain and can cause like dislocations and stuff. So I guess I do tend to wear stuff that is just easy and comfortable. I tend to wear things that are not particularly tight, so I wear stuff that's quite like a bit like oversized or floaty, or yeah, just not tight, because especially like with my gastro issues I get a lot of bloating and pain and things like that, and I just find tight clothes can be really uncomfortable. So actually I think my illnesses do affect the way I dress quite a lot, but I don't really necessarily think about it because it's just how I've always been doing things. But if I kind of start to analyse it, it makes me realise that actually they do affect me quite a lot. Question 3, has anyone ever tried to make chronic illness seem like a competition? And this might sound like a bit of a weird question if you're not chronically ill or you haven't been in that sort of chronic illness community at all. It might be like, why would you make it a competition? But it's certainly something that I have witnessed as I've like got older. Well, even from like when I first started getting problems with my health at the age of 15. I don't know, for some reason sometimes people in the chronic illness community can, I don't know, look at it as a bit of a competition. And I'm not saying everybody does this by any means, because they don't. I think it's just you get the select few. But sometimes I don't know, people do just seem to feel like there's this competitive element of they need to be more ill than you, or they need to have more pain than you, or they need to have more diagnoses than you, and things like that. And I've certainly been in groups, so like Facebook groups and things like that, where that competitiveness can get quite overwhelming and can be very, very negative. And I think as I've got older, I've started to be able to look at it more and notice it when it's happening, so like try and take myself away from it. And I think generally people aren't doing it necessarily even like realising they're doing it. I think the problem with chronic illnesses is that it can be very difficult to be listened to get a diagnosis, to get the right care and treatment and stuff. So I think you can fall into a cycle of like, I don't know, trying to prove yourself and trying to show people that you're ill and that you need help and that there is something wrong with you. And I guess that can spill over into becoming competitive in certain situations. So I wouldn't necessarily say, obviously, you know, every situation is different, but I wouldn't necessarily say people do it on purpose or maliciously or anything like that. I think it can just happen, and it can happen without you realising that you're getting kind of sucked into that competitive nature of it. I saw it a lot with eating disorders as well. But yeah, certainly chronic illness, I have definitely seen it happen. And I guess as I've got older, I'm more conscious of trying to make sure that I don't go down that way, because I know how easy it would be, and I know I probably have in the past possibly got sucked into that way of thinking. So I guess I now actively like take myself out of situations if I feel it's getting like that. And yeah, I guess I try not to let myself get into that situation anymore. Question number 4, do you have any pets that give you comfort when you're feeling ill? So if you don't know, I don't know if you follow my blog or if you just follow my YouTube, but basically my blog is called Ramblings of a Jaffa Cat, and that was named after my cat Jaffa. I named my blog a long time ago, and if I named it now I probably wouldn't have called it that, but I kind of don't want to change it because that's what it's been, and that's, you know, that's how it's kind of built up. Anyway, so it was named after my cat Jaffa, who I got from my parents. Must have been like my 16th birthday, I think. I can't remember exactly. Basically, I'd been ill for a while and had to kind of come out of school and wasn't seeing my friends and stuff very much. And I'd always wanted a cat. And yeah, so for my 16th birthday, they said that I could have a cat. And basically they'd found through the RSPCA this lady who fostered pregnant cats. And the cat that they had at that moment had a litter, and basically I was going to have one of those kittens. So we went along to have a look at the kittens, and so that I could choose, and I went along and I was like, I want a female cat and I want like a tortoiseshell or something like that. Those were my two like stipulations of that's what I want. And we got there, and they had all these little kittens playing around in the room. She did have a couple of female cats, and they were tortoiseshell cats. I think one of them had already been like reserved, but there were other ones as well. And so I was like, yeah, that's probably what I'll get. And I sat down on the sofa, and I wasn't very well at the time, so I kind of just sat there and was like trying to take it all in. And all these little kittens were playing, apart from one, which was a black cat. He was the smallest out of all of them, and he came up and sat next to me on the sofa, like right next to my leg, and he fell asleep. And none of the other kittens did it. They were all playing and like really like quick and like, you know, busy like kittens are. But this little black cat just came and curled up next to me and fell asleep. And I was like, he's chosen me. Like, that's the cat I've got to take home. And it was completely the opposite of anything that I had wanted. You know, he was male, he was completely black, not particularly interesting to look at or anything like that. But I thought, I don't know, the fact that he had come and sat next to me and fallen asleep just felt like, I don't know, he was the one for me. So eventually he came home with us, and that was Jaffa. And yeah, he was my cat, and I don't know, he was just always around. He used to sleep in my bedroom at night. He was always there when I needed comfort or just something like to stroke or company. I would chat away to him. If I was upset, he was the one that was always there, like looking after me. And I don't know, he was always the one that I would go to for cuddles and stuff. And so yeah, he was a really, really special cat. Unfortunately, last October, he got very ill very quickly. He basically had been fine, and then within a week, less than a week I think, he just really didn't look right, and he wasn't acting right. He just wasn't right at all. So I took him to the vets, and he just got progressively worse throughout that day, and they basically found out that his whole abdomen was full of blood, and basically they thought that he probably had some sort of cancer, and it had just bled out, and he was really sick. So they had to put him down, which was absolutely horrible. I've never been through anything like it. And yeah, I massively miss him, because he's just been there through so much. And oh, it's making me a bit emotional. So yeah, he was definitely like my main man. But I do also have two dogs. So we have Alfie and Freddie, and they are always brilliant. If I need a cuddle or just a bit of company, I will quite happily cuddle up with them. And we have another cat called Xena, who is very good for cuddles as well. So yeah, I firmly believe in having pets and it being really good for your physical and mental health. Question 5, what is something that your illness affects that people wouldn't expect? And I've kind of struggled with this question, because I don't really know what people expect. It depends sort of who you're talking about. Like, if I'm talking about someone that knows a lot of my illnesses quite well, then they are quite clued up on like all the random ways it can affect you, I suppose. Whereas if I'm talking about someone that doesn't really know anything about them, there can be a lot of ways that it can affect you that they wouldn't necessarily expect it to. So I don't know, I find this question kind of difficult. I mean, I don't know, I guess there's possibly weird and wonderful ways that like EDS and all those different things can affect you, with like how they can affect you without people like necessarily understanding it. But I'm struggling to kind of put my finger on like what those would be. Obviously, you know, they have quite a big effect on my mental health, but I think people would generally expect that they would. But yeah, I don't know, just like little things I suppose that they make harder. Like they make it harder to, I don't know, like have a bath or a shower every day. They make it harder to wash your hair, to like brush your teeth, to just look after yourself like a sort of healthy 30-year-old might. They mean that you kind of need a lot more help. But yeah, I don't know, even silly things like sometimes they affect my ability to be able to keep my eyes open, or to be able to like watch TV, or sometimes I find it really hard to have like noise and to listen to music, or I find it hard like if there's people talking, sometimes I can't cope with like that noise. Temperature, like it affects me because I can't control my temperature. So there's, I don't know, like weird like little things that people might not necessarily think about. But yeah, I've kind of struggled with that question a bit. Question 6, if you could change one thing about the world in relation to your illness, what would it be? And again, this is a little bit of a tricky one because I think there's quite a lot of different ways that I would want the world to change. So I guess I would want people to understand it more before and after diagnosis. So I would want it to be easier to get a diagnosis and for you to not have to wait so long. I would want the world to be more accessible. I mean, people are trying, like generally, to make things more accessible, but there's still such a long way to go, and I still find it really difficult to do all the things that like my healthy friends do, just like because of like accessibility. Just like little things like lifts breaking, or not being able to get onto public transport properly, or like not being enough disabled spaces in the car park so I can't get my wheelchair out. And things even like, yeah, like silly things like you go to the supermarket and I can't reach the top shelves, so that makes it difficult, and I can't, if I'm in my wheelchair, I can't push a trolley at the same time. So yeah, just like, I don't know, there's things that I just wish were a bit different so that I could just do more stuff like my friends do and be a bit more independent. But yeah, I mean, I could seriously get on my soapbox and speak all day about this, so I won't kind of go into too much, but I think, yeah, definitely like accessibility, and also some people's attitudes and understanding of like illnesses like mine. Question 7, do you consider your chronic illness to be a disability? And I would say that yes, I do. I would identify as a disabled person. It took me a while, I think, to kind of come round to that and to accept that, because I don't know, I think when I started having problems with my health, to me a disabled person was, I don't know, like somebody who perhaps had lost a limb or was paralysed, and I had quite fixed ideas about that. I mean, I was a lot younger as well, so I guess that probably didn't help. But as I have got older and encountered more of the world and stuff, I've realised that disability is a lot more wide-reaching, and you know, it covers so many more things, some disabilities being visible, some disabilities not being visible. So yeah, I definitely would now count myself as disabled. I have a blue badge. I have been assessed to be entitled to disability benefits. I have to use a wheelchair and a stick sometimes. And I guess for me, like, I know the meaning of disability is going to be different for different people, but for me, I guess disability is, you know, you've got something that affects the way you're able to access the world, so that if you're stood next to a healthy person, because of your conditions, there are certain issues with the way you can access the world, or you need certain adaptations to be able to access things in the same way as them. And that's definitely true for me, because I do need extra help. I do need adaptations and things to be changed so that I can still like take part in things. So yeah, I'm quite happy to like identify as being disabled. Question 8, do you have any funny chronic illness stories? And I must have some, I'm not sure, like, I mean, I've definitely had like embarrassing moments because of my illnesses. Like, looking back, I probably at the time, I didn't think they were particularly funny, but now I look at them, I guess I can laugh a bit. Like, I don't know, like if I fainted, or, I don't know, like if silly things have happened, like with access. I don't know, things like being left on a train because I couldn't get off because there was no ramp, or being stuck on the platform because I couldn't get on. You know, at the time that wasn't particularly funny and was actually quite like humiliating, but I don't know, I just try and laugh at it now, because if I don't laugh I'm gonna cry. And then I don't know, I guess through having chronic illnesses, I have met friends. So like a few years ago, I went into hospital for 3 weeks for like a rehabilitation program, and I met like the loveliest group of friends who I still keep in contact with today, and we were all on like this ward, and we just had so much fun, which sounds ridiculous when you're in a hospital and you're all ill, but we did, you know, we all understood each other, we all understood like each other's limitations and pain and symptoms and everything like that. And I don't know, half the time I just felt like we had turned back into like naughty school children, because we would like wind up the nurses. I mean, they were pretty good with like, they were quite happy to have a bit of banter going like backwards and forwards. We all had hospital beds, so we decided one night that we were going to all put them like as high as they could go, and they go really high. So we were all like up like here when the nurses came in, and they thought that was hilarious. And I know it doesn't sound funny now, but it really was. And yeah, we just got up to mischief, which I think is kind of nice, because a lot of us had missed out on a lot of like childhood and school years, so we didn't really get the chance to do a lot of these things when we were younger. So I think because we'd all got together, and you're in a bit of like, you're in an institution, I guess, it's a bit of an opportunity to just be silly. And obviously we didn't go to the point of like being, you know, disruptive or anything to the working of like the hospital, but you know, it was a bit different because we were like separate from the hospital in like this specialised rehab unit, so it wasn't like there was necessarily like emergencies or anything going on. But yeah, we just, I don't know, I just felt a bit like I was like back at school being silly, and you know, the nurses might come in and pretend to tell you off, like, you know, they weren't particularly bothered by us messing about a bit. So yeah, like I guess that gave us a chance, and I've got so many like silly memories from that I just, if I'm feeling down, I'll like remember back to it and it will make me laugh. So yeah, I guess those are my like silly chronic illness stories. Question 9, when you're in a flare, do you prefer to be alone or to have company? So if you're not familiar with like terminology, a flare is basically when certain symptoms might get worse. And I think for me it depends on what those symptoms are that have got worse. So if I'm having a flare of like gastro type symptoms, so if I am being very sick or I'm stuck in the toilet a lot, generally I think I would prefer to be on my own. I don't really want people around me when I'm like that. I guess the only exception would probably be like my mum. She's the only person that I would kind of feel comfortable having around when I'm a bit like that. I think if I don't know, say I'm having a flare up of pain or I don't know, fatigue, or feeling very like faint and dizzy and things like that, then I much prefer to have some company around me. I get quite scared, I don't know, especially if I'm like feeling very faint or dizzy, or like weird symptoms like that where I feel very much out of control. I get quite scared of being on my own. I don't necessarily want someone like really close to me or like touching me or anything like that, but just knowing that there's someone there to sort of be there if I need them, I quite like. So yeah, I kind of think it does depend on the type of flare you're having, but yeah, sometimes I want company, sometimes I'd rather just be on my own. Question 10, if you could say one thing to yourself when you first got ill, what would it be? And there's so many things that I would want to tell myself. I guess, I don't know if I would want to tell myself everything that was wrong, because I don't know if that would scare me, because certainly when I first got ill, I didn't know what was going on and I kind of expected to get better. So yeah, I don't know whether telling myself those things would have been too much, but I think I would want to tell myself that yes, you do have something wrong with you. It's not all in your head. You know, keep fighting and keep working to try and get a diagnosis, because there were definitely times when I just wanted to give up. I had got so fed up of not being listened to, of being dismissed, of being told that my symptoms were all psychological. And I guess I would want to tell myself that, you know, yes, there is something physically wrong with you. Just keep going, keep believing, you know, in your gut instincts that something's wrong until you get the answers that you need. So yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I would want to say. I think I would also want to probably tell myself not to wait until I'm better, because I spent a long time before I got my EDS diagnosis saying, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'll wait until I feel a bit better, and putting things off. And I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I mean, at the time it felt right and that's what happened, but since I got my EDS diagnosis, I kind of look at things in a different way. So I don't say, oh, I'll wait till I'm feeling better to do that. I kind of just try and make the most of what I can do now. I guess now, because I know I'm not going to get better, I'm not waiting for that to happen, whereas before I was. So yeah, I think I would just tell myself, like, you know, if there's something that you want to do, don't necessarily put it off because you think you might be better some other time. Just, if you're feeling all right that day, then go for it and just make the most of the energy and, you know, however you're feeling, and, you know, just make the most of what you can do as and when it happens. Question 11, do you have any unexplained symptoms? And yeah, I guess I do. Like, I'm still under investigation for certain things. I think generally with chronic illness, or with anything to be honest, you will always get things that kind of pop up that you're like, is that EDS, is that POTS, is that gastroparesis, or is it something completely different? So I mean, I've been having swallowing problems for well over a year now, more than that, must be more than that, and they're still under investigation because we're not quite sure what's going on. I am still under investigation for my sort of like fatigue and sleepiness, and we're not sure whether that's just like the mixture of chronic illnesses that I have, or if there's like a specific sleep problem. I mean, more recently I have just been like utterly exhausted, keep falling asleep, feeling very weak, and getting all sorts of random symptoms, and those are kind of under investigation. Some of my bloods have been a bit funny, and so we're just trying to kind of work out what, you know, whether there's anything treatable or whether it is just sort of other illnesses. So yeah, I think there's always going to be unexplained symptoms, or symptoms that you're not quite sure whether they're caused by a particular illness or not. And it's difficult, I think, when you've got a chronic illness, because it's very easy for doctors and for yourself to put everything down to like EDS. Any symptom that comes up, oh, it's just your EDS, you know, or oh, that's just your POTS. And it can be difficult to work out whether that's true. And I've kind of learned, I think, that oh, excuse me, I've kind of learned that, you know, things shouldn't necessarily just all be blamed on one illness, because they're not necessarily always that. So generally, like, if you can find a good doctor, I think they will generally try and just rule out any other causes of it, and then if those all kind of come back clear, then you're going to kind of say, okay, then you can say it's your EDS. But, you know, I don't like the idea of just putting everything down to one illness, because just because you've got EDS doesn't mean you can't end up with other conditions or other problems. So I think it's important to still look at new symptoms and kind of evaluate, you know, what is the cause of them. And then the final question, so question 12, is there anything that cheers you up when you're feeling ill? And there definitely are things that cheer me up. I think it's mainly little things, and I think through being chronically ill for so long, you do learn to kind of appreciate the little things a little bit more. So things that cheer me up when I'm ill. I absolutely love getting post, so I have quite a lot of pen pals and stuff, and it's just so nice to get a letter come through the door, or a little parcel or something, just something nice, because you know, if you're stuck inside all day and you haven't maybe been able to do a lot, just having that little letter come through the door or a little parcel come with something nice in to cheer you up, that just is, I don't know, it's so much, it's so special, and that's why I appreciate having like pen pals and stuff so much, because in some of my like darkest, horriblest times, they have kept me going through post. So yeah, post is definitely a big thing for me. Other things that cheer me up are my pets, as we already spoke about, my family. So, you know, sometimes my family are just goofy and do silly things and they make me laugh, especially like if I'm around my siblings. When we get together, we just kind of resort back to being children again, and we do silly things and make each other laugh, and sometimes that's all I need to try and get me through a bad day. My niece and nephew definitely cheer me up if I'm feeling bad. Noah, so he is, I think he's about 20 months now, and he just needs to be prescribed on the NHS because he just has me laughing all the time. I mean, yes, he's exhausting, he's a toddler, you know, they're constantly like wanting to be doing stuff, but I just, yeah, whenever I see him, he makes me smile. And now we've got little Maisie, who is just over a month old. Seeing her, having cuddles with her, just brightens my day completely, and I'm excited to kind of see her grow, and I'm sure she will be making us laugh as much as Noah is as she kind of gets older as well. What else cheers me up? If I can, I like to be able to get outside, so even if it's just like going and standing in the garden for a few minutes and just kind of getting a bit of fresh air, seeing kind of like nature, flowers, trees, that kind of stuff around me, that definitely cheers me up. If I'm able to get out in my wheelchair for a little walk, I find that really beneficial. Just kind of, I think it's like that change of setting and getting out somewhere and just, yeah, being like around like the fresh air and nature, I think has massive benefits. Doing a little bit of online shopping definitely helps. Disney is a massive one for me. If I'm feeling ill, watching a Disney film just makes me smile, or watching someone's Disney vlogs brightens my day. Yeah, I forgot to say YouTube as well. YouTube is a massive thing that helps me. Like if I'm not able to get out and do things, it can help. Well, for me, it can help seeing other people doing them, because I feel like I can kind of live it through them. So, you know, I don't get to travel that much. I'm not able to, for a number of reasons. I haven't been able to kind of travel very much, but it's really nice to see other people's vlogs of them doing it, and I feel like I can get to like experience some of these things despite the fact I haven't been able to go. You kind of have to be careful with social media, I think, because you can end up feeling like left out and a bit jealous and stuff, but if you kind of manage it, I think it can be quite a helpful thing. But yeah, just like lots of little things that cheer me up. Watching funny stuff on the TV, like watching Friends or The Simpsons or Family Guy, you know, Big Bang Theory, anything like that just makes me laugh. Stuff on Netflix. So yeah, there's lots and lots of little things that cheer me up when I'm feeling ill. And that is the end of this chronic illness tag. I really hope you've enjoyed hearing my answers, and I would be really interested to hear like what some of your answers might be to it. If you have enjoyed it and you'd like to see more videos from me, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, so that you get notified every time I upload a video, so you won't miss one. And yeah, I guess I'm meant to tag people. I don't really know who to tag, so I think I'm just gonna kind of leave this open so that if anybody else would like to answer these questions, then I would love to see the videos that you put together, or if you want to do it in a blog post, that's absolutely fine. Please do just link back to Georgina and Izzy, because it was them that came up with the like original tag, but also link to me because I'd love to see what you've been doing as well. And yeah, let me know what you've thought. Please do leave me some comments. Let me know if there's any other videos you'd like to see me do, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.